Welcome back, everyone, to the final session of day two of Streaming Media Connect 2026. This is Let's Talk Shop, Strategies and Solutions for Shopifying CTV in 2026. I'm Steve Nathans Kelly, Editor-in-Chief of Streaming Media and the Chair of Streaming Media Connect. And it's been great to have everyone here for all these sessions today. This has been loads of fun for me, and hope it has for you too. Let's see, before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. Uh, at the end of the session, we're going to be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to the first person to correctly identify the track and the artist that you heard as we were all coming into the session. But you must be present to win. Chat in the chat and put your questions for the panel in the Q&A, and we will get to as many as we can at the end of the session. Sessions from all 3 days of Stream Media Connect are now appearing on the Stream Media YouTube channel. Link to a playlist for that is in the chat. And we will be back right here in May 12th to 14th for the next Stream Media Connect. The call for speakers is open. Link to that is in the chat. Send me your ideas. Send me who you are, your area of expertise. If you want to speak, you have an idea, we'll be starting to plan that next week, and hope to hear from as many of you as possible as we go into that. So I think that's it for me. I would like to now bring to the stage the one and only Chris Pfaff from Chris Pfaff Tech Media.
Hey,
Oh,
Steve. Good to be here, as always. And we do have an expert panel closing out day two. This is really just a super group, a very diverse panel. First, I want to bring in Karl Meyer from Fuse Media. Karl, welcome. You're joining us from LA. And joining us from New York City, not far from me, here in Montclair, New Jersey, is Lexi Swift with Disney Advertising. Welcome, Lexi. We also are very lucky to have Joe Hall with Spaceback by Rembrand. He joins us from Austin, Texas, ATX. Hey, Joe. Last but
Hello.
not least is joining us all the way from Palm Desert, California at the E-Tail conference is Chester Goodson from LG Electronics. Hey, Chester.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. So let's dive right in. This session is Let's Talk Shop, Strategies and Solutions for Shopifying CTV in 2026. So we've now, according to me anyway, officially entered the era of converged commerce. And if 2024 was the year of the pilot and 2025 was the year of the partnership, then 2026 is the year of accountability, because connected TV is no longer just the biggest screen in the house for brand awareness. It's now a $38 billion performance engine, and nearly 50% of consumers have interacted with some form of shoppable media, and the integration of retail media networks has turned what was the lean back TV experience into a lean forward shopping opportunity. So we're seeing this collapse, structural collapse of the traditional marketing funnel. The discovery, consideration, checkout are now happening in a single 30-second window. But we have what I'm going to call shopification hurdles. So we are dealing with a fragmented ecosystem. Measurement standards are still being written. AI is, dynamically generating content at a very scary pace. And we have this last mile issue. There's always a last mile issue in technology. In this case, it's moving a viewer from a remote control to a completed transaction. But we're going to have our solution experts, all four of them, jam with me for a little bit. And we're going to have a conversation starter here, really talking about a big event that we all were involved in some way recently, which is called the Winter Olympics. And I think we did see some interesting things in terms of shoppable content. But for me, the question that I have for all of you is it going to take big events like the Super Bowl or the Winter Olympics, which did converge this year, to drive more of this activity? Karl, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, sports is on everyone's mind as it relates to CTV and streaming. That's where, the money's being spent right now. So yeah, you take a tentpole event like that, an event that draws such a large audience and scale, and there's no better way to prove that model out in real time. Absolutely. My mind goes towards merchandising, star power, everything that comes with that event now, that's got real legs behind, personalities, athletes. all of that, shoulder content. It's just ripe for, shoppability.
Right. And Lexi, what's your take on that? Both really the state of things in 2026 with shoppable content and also where big events kind of merge with CTV in this.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Karl. Not only do you have that, you have a highly engaged audience. There's a lot of emotion involved typically with these events. The Olympics, of course, but when I look at Disney's hand for next year, we've got the Super Bowl, we've got the Grammys, we have the Oscars. So lots of those big tentpole live events. So I'm with you, Karl. You have people truly leaned in. And it's an emotional moment, at times as well. So definitely huge opportunity.
Yeah, and Chester, what's your take on that? Because I know you've come at this from a few different perspectives with LG.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with both Carl and Lexi. I think 9 in 10 connected households are. They also have a connected TV as well. So I think the ability to utilize these large tentpole events, you mentioned Olympics, Super Bowl, to create awareness, surprise, and delight, add more utility in those moments, and allowing viewers to engage in those moments by being able to purchase or even just being able to see brands that they could have access to in ways that are a little bit newer and different than we've seen in the past. I think we saw a little bit of that during the Olympics. And on our side, we're always considering ways that we can do exactly what I just said is, how do we utilize our TV screens and our glass to provide these moments? And we partner up with all kinds of partners on the platform to do so.
And LG was, I believe, an advertiser during the NBC Olympics, right here in the U.S.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
And Joe, what's your feeling? Again, you're sort of the one startup person here, entrepreneur. So I'm curious how you look at this from in terms of a potential milestone, but also where you can drive more innovation.
Definitely. I mean, I think live events is key. It's a different, unique space, which is why, as Karl mentioned, it has scale. Lexi mentioned it's emotion. It's emotion driven. There's opportunities there. Live events really amplify emotion. There's this company, I don't know if anyone else remembers it in the early mobile days called Keep, KIIP. And they
Oh,
served an
I knew
ad.
Brian very well.
Thank you. In a mobile game, somebody achieved a goal. The ad could deliver a reward to them. The point is,
Mhm.
if commerce can align with these emotional peaks and not interrupt them, it becomes really, really powerful. And that's what I think we saw with the Olympics or other live events, is brands can reach users in ways that they, in those emotional states they're not typically in. So that's what I find really interesting about live events.
Yeah, it's and it's interesting, and thank you for mentioning keep. There, and we're going to get into sort of going back to the future here, because I think one of the things that I always look at is, and I mentioned the converged commerce sort of era here, is that we can talk about where we want things to go and what horsepower we have either in our ecosystem, on the glass that we put on our ceilings. And full disclosure, one of my CTVs is a 42-inch LG. But it's really consumer behavior, particularly with something about shopping. I was joking with Chester earlier on the prep call about something, and I don't mean to pick at IBM, but they did sort of stick their necks out years ago with a spot that talked about your refrigerator knowing what you don't have, and that's kind of cute, and it's a great futuristic play. But the human is making purchase decisions, no disrespect to whatever AI engine. And I look at where we are in terms of consumer behaviors, and I'm curious what each of you sees in terms of the brand engagements and some of the things you've done. And Karl, we've talked about how you and I are a tad older, and OG, and go back to the 90s with a lot of forward-thinking companies. What have you seen, particularly in the last 10 years? Because if we had been doing this panel 10 years ago, we might have been talking about something called the second screen. Now, and others have saying it's converged to the first screen. But what is getting people to take their mobiles and interact? Is it just QR codes? I mean, give us your take on the last
Yeah.
10 years of this.
I mean, I think it always comes down to what's the execution and what is the offer to the consumer, because we're asking for a massive shift in behavior, no doubt. So, I'll go back, the coupons, and then became the QR codes, and then a TV remote or a TiVo remote, and then Samsung remotes and all of that, or a mobile phone. And I think clearly the behavior is such that mobile is probably the first to grab when it comes to commerce, no doubt. So yeah, no, I think it's really making the offer relevant, that it's compelling enough for the behavior to stop, lean forward, and engage. And I think that's where the magic happens. Within that environment, I think that's really key. The environment meaning the content itself, show level content, and where essentially these probably happen more so, cooking shows, again, more leisurely cultural moments that are relevant. I don't know that you're going to get a lot of viewers in the past stopping during a sporting event, getting a room full of people to all pause what they're doing, drink their beer or whatever, and let one individual transact. I just don't see that in the past or even in the future.
Right. And Lexi, where do you see sort of consumer behaviors coming into shoppable CTV in the year 2026?
Yeah, sorry, totally agree. The second screen definitely plays a part in it. We all know from our own behavior that oftentimes you've got two screens going on at once. At Disney, we have an advertising opportunity we call Shop the Stream. And what that does is it does exactly what you said, Karl. It ties to the content itself. And so what that does is it allows the consumer to shop a curated marketplace based on the IP they're watching. So a really successful version of this was this year with Project Runway. A lot of brands do collections with Project Runway. And so we had a brand that sold out immediately as part of that. And then also, we have that opportunity tied to sports. So things like women's sports, college football, golf. I think there was some banter about golf shirts when I got on the prep call earlier. So definitely. And then also things like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So just really creating that experience, not only with the content itself, but then extending it into this curated marketplace where the consumer can actually purchase and be part of that.
Right. And Joe, I mean, talk about some of the things that you're doing on that side and with shoppable content and very directly addressable ads. And what have you learned from some of these recent activations?
Yeah. What's really interesting is that it's not just about the technology for shoppable, right? It's really about the consumer behavior that's watching the show. And we've seen as consumers spend 2+ hours, depending on what you see on mobile, on social, they're in a different mindset as they view TV today, as the TV's become the second screen ultimately. We used to create experiences for the second screen, the mobile device. Now the TV has become the second screen. So at Spaceback several years ago, we started enabling brands to put their social on TV and ad space. And what makes this unique is that's how consumers are being spoken to hours a day. And so that's a new way to speak to them, because you can't just give them a button to buy. You really have to trigger them to want to buy. And so that's just something from the social arena, all of this learning that we've leveraged technology to help brands take that learning and that behavior to consumers on the big screen, not just the mobile device.
That's interesting. And speaking of the big screen, Chester, I'm sure you have a special take on where these behaviors are leading us and what you've seen with some of the activations you've done.
Definitely. I think it's, research tells us that the TV is a compelling medium to be compelled by an ad you see. I think the recall is typically higher as well on TV. I think in our case, we've experimented, our subsidiary LG Ads experiments with various partners to incorporate interactive ads, whether it's a static ad in the hero space when you turn the TV on, and then allowing users to engage with QR codes, et cetera. We just recently announced a partnership with NBC Universal where we are utilizing together their content that they're delivering to our platform to create these shoppable moments within shows, from Top Chef to Below Deck and more to come. And so I think for us, we recognize the importance of brands that want to get in front of the millions of TV viewers that are watching on TV. And traditionally, like I mentioned earlier, static banners and some interactive banners have been very, very promising. But, I think what we're looking at now is how do we expand upon those campaigns to, eventually transact from the, your sitting position with a remote very quickly. I think it was might have been Karl or that mentioned earlier, you don't want to distract your co-viewers as well. So we're very mindful of that. But yeah, I think we're we're underway with a lot of fun activations coming soon that elaborate upon what we've done in the past with some of our brands.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to ask you, all of you, because I think this is a really interesting moment when we look at where content is flowing across social networks, across micro networks, across so many different devices. And we haven't even talked about gamers, for example, talk about engagement, because I do want to ask a few of you about that for sure. But, from the narrative structure, I'm just curious where you're seeing success, or where you've seen some success with brands and narrative. And Lexi, because you're the biggest publisher on this panel and you have specific expertise, what have you seen? I mean, are there data points or things that have changed over the last couple of years, in terms of how you're working with brands and also producers to gain some sort of weight with the CTV audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think interactive ads were a novelty, and now they're sort of table stakes, right? And so Disney kind of has a two-prong approach to that. We have some that are kind of, I would call homegrown, that are proprietary to us. And then we work with some of the larger partners as well to ensure that when clients are putting together these great assets, they are truly interoperable, so they can use them across multiple publishers. And those interactive ads are everything from, a localizer that shows where your, closest retail location is, to even like tapping into things like weather, or even just, if you're an auto dealer and you want someone to be able to explore what that color, make, model looks like, with your remote, that's a possibility too. So it really, I think it's customization and targeting is the important part. But I would say that whereas maybe those were a novelty before, they're much more prevalent now in the CTV space.
Yeah, and Chester, just coming back to you for a second, the LG has a Showtime app, right? Or Shoptime?
Shoptime, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that back, Chris. Yeah, so just to elaborate more on the partnership I just referred to that we just announced, we do have a dedicated shopping app on the TV, on all of our TVs, called Shoptime. And so part of that announcement we just made recently, so IP from partners like NBC or any of our streaming partners, for that matter, that we're in partnership with, their related merch and endemic or non-endemic products that we all collaborate together on, they have a place inside Shoptime. So if you're a hyper shopper and you are compelled to browse and search using the Shoptime app, you can have at it there. But also we lift content out of that app and out of that ecosystem and present that to the viewer as they turn on the TV. So we have dedicated placements, interactive ad opportunities that are all tied around commerce, video-driven commerce. And so I think you'll see a lot more in the coming months related to Shoptime. But then again, you'll also see quite a bit of activations that utilize the Shoptime ecosystem as the hub or foundation to provide what we call it LG Smart Serve. So that's an overlay panel that shows up on top of the content you're watching in a very tasteful way. But I think the goal for us is to find the users where they are. We understand the phone will always be in that room with you while you're watching TV, but at the same time, how can we again offer utility? And I like what Lexi said about emotion. There are different. There are times when I've my mom actually. I actually am at my parents' house. And I surprised my mom didn't know I was here, but she says she was watching the Olympics figure skating gala, and one of the skaters had some amazing pants on, some jeans, and she said it would have been great if she could have bought some those right then and there for one of her family members. And so I think that we're always at LG, we're continually thinking of ways to leverage our platform in ways that again create affinity for the viewers and TV owners that we are so lucky to have in our world.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that we talked about really the sort of the hyper shoppers, but also the hyper speed at which content flows. And what I love is that all of you are innovating in ways that bring so much of this innovation back to that literally home screen. I want to go back to sort of the gamer world a little bit for a second with Joe and Karl. Karl, I know you've done some work in the past with Samsung with the gamer community. What do you see in terms of where shoppable content on CTV can appeal to the broad, not necessarily, the Red Bull 10 hours a day, MMORPG crowd. But is there an opportunity there in terms of highly engaged users like gamers?
Yeah, I mean, I think Samsung, going back to my time there, we quickly identified with the opportunity of the living room, right? And we made a better TV, the experience, that environment, immersive. And the next place for us to go was, in leaning on the theme of cord cutters, was to integrate gaming inside the smart TVs, and also seeing the future of consoles maybe eventually going away. So again, the streaming model of on-demand games. So yeah, we created an environment that was very sticky, and that then led to more exploratory conversations of how can we work with the gaming publishers to monetize the things that they've already done and done successfully. So for instance, open up new maps to a particular game, or getting new players, or weapons if it's a first-person shooter experience. So, but doing that with ease was the concept. I don't believe that we're there yet, or Samsung's there yet, but we did, I think, all the right first initial moves we had to at the time, which was partner with Brightline, partner with Innovid, Curve, and this list went on, and then shopping came on later. In my role right now at Fuse, I come in eyes wide open. The team here has done a great job. I'm 2 months in. They partner with Brightline, Triple Lift, and Gum Gum. And so, we have that in our stable offerings, but we reverse engineered the thinking in that our audience, which is diverse audience, growth audience, multicultural, they're leaning in, they're very engaged. And so it made sense for us to, deliver these interactive components, because that audience is, 3x more engaged and leaning in and willing to transact or buy stuff on the TV and the streaming experience.
Right. So you think that some of the same audiences that would over-index in mobile, you think may similarly over-index in this kind of interactive shopping context?
Completely. Yeah. So we had last week an announcement. We were launching a new streaming service April 1st, Complex TV. And Complex is a popular brand among African Americans. Very cultural, music driven, community based, and very and that sales team is quite good at the social side of the marketing, going after advertisers that are doing social and YouTube, and we bring the streaming and CTV expertise, and so it's a great partnership to go after that audience in a really unique way. So
yeah, interesting to see Complex coming back that way. So, Joe, what involvement do you have on that sort of hyper engaged audience, and particularly gamers, and wondering what kind of activations you've seen there?
Sure. I'll be quick on this. So, we specialize in creative, and really exploring that line where between content and an ad, and when an ad feels more like content. That's our expertise. I'm admittedly not a hardcore gamer, but we have worked with a lot of gaming platforms to distribute their ads that feel like content, whether it's like a Twitch live stream, to promoting new products. So that's really where we excel, is like pushing a traditional, let's say, CTV ad away from more of speaking to the audience, but speaking like the audience. And to everybody's point here, that is a unique audience, and they expect to be spoken to a specific way, and we want to make it easy for brands to speak that way in these CTV environments.
Yeah, I can see that is probably going to get some more lift. I want to talk about some of the retail networks. I mean, we're seeing partnerships like Instacart, Roku, and Walmart, NBCU as more mature. What's the next phase for those particular alliances? Are we going to see retailers becoming primary content financiers to own the entire shop-to-door loop? Lexi, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so actually those partnerships are an important part of Disney's commerce offering. We have a partnership with Walmart and KPM as well. And then we actually, through our DSP partnerships, we have about 25 retail media networks that our buyers can access those audiences and run them against Disney inventory. So it's a great opportunity. That has been a heavy display marketplace, but CTV is really the next phase of that. And so we're working directly with the commerce folks at the agencies on testing that, as well as the sellers and the sales teams from the retail media networks themselves. So we're going to advertisers together, and we're saying, like, you have this great audience segment that you're already utilizing. You have the ability to run it on great Disney IP. And so we've gotten a lot of great, positive reinforcement from the marketplace and bringing that out.
Yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see, for example, what happens at like the new fronts and upfronts this year. I really feel like we're going to see more. And just let's stay with you for a second. What in terms of like fast channels and things like that, is that part of your CTV world as well?
For Disney?
Yeah.
My focus is mainly on Hulu, Disney Plus, and the ESPN apps.
Right.
So that's really where we're working with those retail media on that type of inventory.
Yeah, but there's been so much growth there with your networks. I would think that this would be a very exciting opportunity for somebody to partner with you now. Given the levels of engagement, right?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm just curious, Chester, if you can give us sort of your take on the retail networks.
Yeah, and, something it's of top interest at LG. I can say that certainly. It sounds like I might be getting a little bit more involved there. And we have seen, and we will, to echo a bit of what Lexi was saying, but we've seen instances where retail brands are financing content. I think we saw something on a platform a year or two ago with Home Depot, and others, many other examples of that happening. I think on our side, it's important to identify, with our brands and our platform, how do we best utilize that data in a obviously in a very protected way, but how do I use that back end data to then serve these moments to viewers and users that are watching across our platforms?
And Joe, what are you seeing in terms of the retail media network partnership side for what you guys are up to?
I mean, I definitely think that that's going to continue to grow and see more experimentation and evolution, really. And it comes down to the user experience ultimately, right? Can you create a complete through the line better experience for the user? And there's opportunities there, and I think somebody's definitely going to crack that.
It's interesting, to me to see this, because I think that we're getting to a point where, we talked about the Super Bowl, and I thought it was interesting that in the fourth quarter, which seemed to be the most interesting quarter of a rather bloody, wretchedly boring game, unless you were a Seahawks fan. But we saw Mr. Beast partner with Salesforce for this thing called The Vault, an interactive $1 million puzzle challenge. And I'm just curious what you're all seeing in terms of the collision of creators and influencers with these shoppable opportunities. Is that something that you guys are getting involved in? Are you being asked to do more? Lexi, what's your take there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's a ton of social content around Disney IP. There just is. And so definitely the moments that we talked about are opportunities for brands. Specifically, ESPN has had in market for quite a while now, there's something called the Creator Network, where they take 10 up and coming creators. Mm-hmm. They pair them with some of the folks on the ESPN social team. If you don't know, ESPN is one of the #1 brands on TikTok. And then you can bring a brand into the mix, and we have as well, and sort of marry all those things together and really develop some great content that feels, because the whole point is, right, it has to feel real. It has to feel like it's connecting with the consumer. And sports is definitely a way to do that, sports and fandom. So it's definitely something we're working with brands on, all the time.
Yeah, it's I hadn't been in the mothership at ESPN for many years until I was there with the client in December of 24, and it was just mind blowing. I mean, I think that you seem to be getting out ahead of and working with the creator sphere in a really interesting way. Chester, where are you and the team at LG in terms of working with creators on shoppable content?
Yeah, definitely. We as you mentioned, Mr. Beast. I think there's others that traditionally have existed on YouTube and other social platforms, and these ways. You're seeing them on broadcast television and ads and such. And I think for us, we have recently over the last year have started to become more involved with creators. Now for the LG brand, appliances, consumer electronics, et cetera, we have a dedicated team, social team, creator team, influencer team that are continually working with all types of creators across the different verticals that we exist in. On the shop time side, on the commerce side that I described earlier, we're also pretty early, a little bit nascent, I would say, but starting to work with certain brands and influencers, creators to promote various categories. I think Lexi hit the nail on the head. Authenticity is absolutely key. And so the idea there is, again, whether it's sports or lifestyle, who do we want to partner up with from the creator perspective? Brands are very eager to engage, but we have a team out of Seoul, Korea that collaborates with our team here in the United States to identify for the commerce piece of our business, shop time, as I mentioned, leveraging creator content in ways that are compelling for viewers. So lots more to come there. Last year we promoted our Stand By Me television. It's a mobile TV that we have one that's in a briefcase. We have one that's on the stand, and so we executed a few campaigns with creators across social media just late last year. And so that definitely, I think, whet our appetite for more creative opportunities together. So you'll see more of that.
Right. And I was actually at a K-Fast event with Alan Walk and some others, Maria Ruel Aguenta, and that was back in November here in New York. And it's interesting to see how much is being pushed through a number of companies, including LG, but also, of course, the incredible sustainability and power of K culture in general. And so I since you're here, I have to ask you how that's affecting what you're doing on the Shoppable side, because my God, it's just incredible. The mind boggles at what you can do. And speaking of authenticity, you've captured, the ears and eyes and yes, the heart of so many people across the world now. I mean, that's got to be enormously exciting for you and the team, right?
I mean, it is tremendous, and you make a really good point. And coming from Asia and Korea in this particular case, they're advanced as far as the different executions and engagements, opportunities. Starting back with mobile, but now on the TV. The Shoptime app, the shopping app that's installed on all of our TVs, that was born out of Seoul, Korea, for the fact that we have this glass on the wall that is being utilized for many different reasons. How do we leverage shopping in that way? And so yes, absolutely. For us, it's very exciting to continue to iterate and innovate in ways that may compel users and consumers want to turn on the TV. It could be our art gallery, just to leave it on silence with just beautiful art on the TV. You're watching your favorite sport or movie, but also, again, how do we bring other utilities as far as gaming, cloud gaming, shopping, et cetera?
Exactly. And you and I were talking about, where that glass, can do amazing things, before you even select a show. What it can do, and again, things that we might not want it to do. I'm not really going to talk about AI, and I'll tell you why. Too much. I want to talk more about where we see innovation in terms of automation. The reason is just that I feel that we're not quite there yet with a lot of features that a lot of us would want to see in terms of shoppable content. So I'm just for the record, going to kind of skip that. But what I want to ask each of you, and Karl, I'll start with you, is where you see, and what I always look at is two things really. Over my long career and gestating new technologies and seeing where they failed and where things have succeeded, user behavior and really incremental innovation at scale. Karl, what sorts of things do you see in 2026 that you think are going to enable more seamless shoppability or break down some of the friction? What are the things that you look at there, particularly on the innovation side?
Yeah, no, I will say if I was still at Samsung, I would lean into the glass, and I'd lean into that landing page, homepage, and leverage that. I mean, that is lower funnel performance advertising at its best. I managed and oversaw all of the entertainment accounts, streamers, SVOD, AVODs, and there's no better way to get an immediate measure on performance or really move product. In the case of the glass at that level, it's about programming and pushing content and lift analysis, but more so there's a wide open door for a tile ad to go into a shopping experience, no doubt.
Right. Yeah, Lexi, what's your take there?
Yeah, I think it's also just really about choice and control and meeting users where they are, right? So like really thinking about the interoperability piece, because where your comfort might be from shopping from an ad might be different from someone else's. And so just really making sure that we build that level of comfort and trust with consumers. And I think the social platforms have done that, right? Like in many cases. So it's really having the ability for that consumer to interact and make the purchase and go as far as they want with the ad.
Right. And Joe, is that something that you've seen, and do you expect to see more of that? I'm wondering if there are some specific things that that you've seen in the Spaceback / Rembrand world.
Yeah, I mean, definitely everybody's working on this. We have a deep partnership with Roku. They've got sort of a click to buy experience where it's tied in with you can have your phone number and you can complete the purchase there. It's got your purchase information. So closing that loop. And, as Lexi mentioned with social in the previous conversation on creators, is creators have trained us to purchase through content. And so just bringing more of that behavior to the big screen and in the living room. And we see you mentioned earlier about lift. We see 50% lift and beyond consistently when using social content in these other environments, because consumers subconsciously are trained to respond to that. So we're seeing a lot of traction and across partners that are integrating much more deeply.
Very cool. Chester, what are you looking at again from an innovation standpoint in terms of what's going to enhance shoppability, if you will?
Yeah, I think it's connecting a few dots. I think, the consumer's journey from, that upper funnel down to that lower funnel. I think creating the awareness, we've proven to be pretty darn good at that. Turning on the TV, you might see various placements on the TV to promote a specific brand or category, et cetera. But then, dropping down lower into that funnel, where the consideration and purchase phase, conversion phase, I think that's where shop time comes into play. And that's the beauty of shop time and the scale that shop time can provide. So for us, it's utilizing the placements across WebOS, our TV operating system, as best we can. But then how do we take it a step further with our brands to allow those consumers to close that loop and purchase that item or save that item to cart, however they might choose to engage.
Yeah, and I was going to prompt you on WebOS, the venerable WebOS. For those who don't know, have been around for like 20 years. But that's a good sort of segue into UX. We talk about the OS, but also the UX UI design. And Lexi, with Disney, I would think, not just the strength of your IP and how you leverage it, but also the design thinking. Is there a methodology or a thinking that it's enabling you to create a better opportunity, shall we say, for your brand partners?
Yeah, well, we definitely have a tech team that is thinking about that day and night that I work closely with. So they're definitely the ones that are, but I would say like just in general, and I think it goes for all of us, is the home screen is sort of that the door opening, right? Like that is the moment. We've all done it. You're on your couch, you got your snacks, you got your remote, like that's sort of the opening. And then it's really like where you go from there, right? And that could be you're going right to a show, or if you're a sports fan, you're going right to your team. ESPN's done a lot of redesign on the app to really bring you that singular experience that feels just to you.
It's remarkable work.
Yeah.
I have to say, Disney Plus since day one has just been a stunning, really masterpiece of design. I think for CTV, it's just. And I would expect no less, but I think that really speaks to, again, to the brand. It's which is really great. Karl, I mean, you've been all over this space. I told you I hate the term OG, but I'm going to throw it at you. Even go back to old DirecTV days. What do you see in terms of where UX and design enables better shoppability, if you will?
Yeah, I think it's just the ease of use, right? It's making it one click away, or a remote, or a mobile device away. And so it's, to me, I get down to the behavior stuff and making it easy and executable. I do fancy start on the AI side, the contextual conversation of finding audiences in the right pockets, if you will, in that moment, which again makes that twitch, if you will. I'll go back to my Xbox days, even faster and transactional. So yeah, no, I'm excited about, finally the dawning of shopping at scale. I've seen a variety of different iterations executed, some well, some not. TiVo, Dish, Xbox, Brightline, and now,
Yeah,
Samsung. So yeah,
yeah.
bringing all of my learnings to Fuse with an audience that's receptive is, I think, where my head is right now on how do we create an authentic experience for multicultural audiences.
Which is really cool, because I think that for those who don't know, here in the United States, Latino audiences have over-indexed massively in mobile usage, but also mobile content usage and commerce usage, and many brands, I think, ignore the engagement, and of course there is no monolithic Latino audience. But yeah, if you want to talk more about that, talk to Karl. Joe, I'm just curious where you guys are in terms of thinking, design thinking, applying UX UI to what you're doing in the shoppable world.
I mean, that's table stakes. That's foundational. It's an area that I'm passionate about. We're passionate about, and I'm really hoping we can push the boundaries a little bit further. I'm hoping TV in general will push the boundaries a little bit further, not just where it's been in the past, but really, what can TV become, especially with all the other competition out there from social and beyond. So yeah, it's something that's hugely important to us. And another piece of our business that I should mention, which is more of the Rembrand side, is really about virtual placement in scripted and UGC content. And that's really about, there's always been product placement of different sorts, but doing it customized to the viewer, and doing it at scale is an integrated experience that's less interruptive. And that's a huge unlock from a user experience standpoint. So I won't dive into that now, but that's something that's also huge and going to be unlocked over the next several years.
Yeah, you and I talked a little bit about that in terms of where you can very specifically place something that's relevant for the individual user, in fact. And, I think that's a good moment for us to talk about a term. And Lexi actually has this in her title, addressability. It used to mean different things. If you talked to somebody 20 years ago at Microsoft, it might have meant one thing, but it was also sort of seen as this holy grail that we were going to get down to ID and signifiers and things that we'd be able to manage through privacy. What does addressability mean for shoppable content today in the CTV world? Chester, we'll start with you on that.
Yeah, I'd say, and going back to the UX just really quickly, I think that's top of mind for us here at LG regarding just the front home screen, but also the Shop Time app. I also take part and collaborate with our DEG friends at DEG, Gene Levecki, Evan Moore from UC Universal, and a few others on that committee, and our purpose is to attempt to establish some standard around UX and UI with regard to shoppable video. And so more to come on that. As far as addressability, yes, I think how do we, again, what you might see on your screen, it might be different from what I see on my screen. That's something that, again, utilizing engagement touch points and data that we can leverage to serve the right moments. Definitely we'll see more of that across our platform to drive more engagement.
Yeah, first of all, I think they missed you at Skirball today because I think they were doing that event at DEG. But you very deftly sort of prompted me to my next question, which is really talking about standards. Do we think we need them in terms of shoppability? And I have my own opinion on this, but Lexi, is this something that you talk about with your clients and colleagues?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of going back to use something I said before, but like really the idea of choice and control, right? And like making sure that consumers have a way to transact in it, and brands have some partnerships too, right, that they want to leverage through retailers. So it's really about bringing all of those things together, but also in like, a way that is feel safe to the consumer as well as protects the brand.
Right, and I think that your success would prove that out. Is that something Chester, that you're looking at? I mean, you mentioned some of the standards work, but that's such a tough nut because, of course, when we talk about global standards, for those who don't know, you might have your own, if you're LG or Samsung or any other manufacturer, your own wrapper for, let's say, an MPEG-4 stream or something. There are different ways of getting proprietary pieces of technology that are standard adjacent or meet certain standards. But I think with shoppability, maybe that cracks the nut. I mean, what do you think, Joe? Are we getting closer to that, or do we need that? I mean, I think choice and control, what Lexi said, is very open. That would speak to a certain openness both on the tech side as well as the content side. What do you think?
In regards to standardization?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, standardization is important, not only from a usability standpoint, but from a measurement. We haven't talked a ton about measurement. It's obviously massively important for the evolution of the space. But a little bit of the risk is like, when does the standardization come in and how does it come in? And making sure there's enough room for the user experience that's unique to this medium to develop in a way that it can be as successful as possible. So I'm a big believer in standards, but with some flexibility as we figure that out together.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm just curious. Are we using first party retail data to drive the incrementality here? I mean, where are we in terms of using data, and also where does privacy fit into this, Karl?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say the word. Absolutely. I mean, standardization is one thing, but then privacy is really the end all be all. And now you've got this first party data that opens a door that it's hard to close if it's open in such a way. So I'm not probably the best person to answer the question. I can call it out as an area that needs to be identified, and maybe the good people at IAB can help us with that in some regard. But yeah, no, I think it's a key talking point.
Yeah, Lexi, what's your take on where privacy and shoppability sort of collide here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Disney has the right infrastructure for it. We've been ahead of the curve. We've had clean rooms with many advertisers and vendors for a very long time. In addition to that, like through our DSP relationships, where I mentioned we do a lot of these retail media activations, like that is within that automated environment. So, I feel like Disney is doing everything on their behalf to make sure sort of, what you're saying, Karl, is true.
Yeah. And Chester, where do you guys come out on the privacy side? What sorts of things are you doing?
Top of mind, I think, getting into the details with our, sorts of things we're doing, probably a more, you will see a more elaborate answer from our LG Ad subsidiary and the teams that they're selling there. But, I can make our team of lawyers happy by saying all of our agreements, content agreements, include a pretty heavy layer of privacy language, data privacy. And it's something that's top of mind and of utmost important for us. And so how do we utilize that data in the back end in an encrypted fashion to drive more engagement with retail brands? That's there. It's definitely a priority for us in our LG Ads group.
Yeah,
and content group, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, and as I said, yes, there are many different pieces of LG for this conversation. Joe, talk to us about where Rembrand is with privacy and shopping.
Yeah, we don't touch any personal data, so we're a little bit one step removed. I'm slightly of a different perspective, just in general, of like, we need personalization, we need privacy, and the tendency is that in order to have personalization, we lose privacy. And that's a real risk, unfortunately. So I'm a little bit of a contrarian take on that, but I hope that we can maintain both.
Well, but as I said, I think that it gets difficult when you're talking about different device layers, when you're talking about even different networks. We haven't talked so much about operators and networks per se, and even just a tiny bit about mobile OSs. So maybe this is an opportunity to just ask a little bit about where the OS and where things like even biometrics come into this. Is that a consideration, Joe? Have you guys played around with some of that? Is that something?
That actually isn't a ton that we played around in. That's a little bit like, where's the world going from a biometric standpoint? And as much as I hate to say this, I think it is going there a little bit, and there's pros and cons of this, and that's probably a different topic. But yeah, that's not an area we play in regularly.
Yeah, Chester, I'm going to guess that at least one piece of your ecosystem is involved in that, but do you see that coming into play with any of the shoppable activations you're doing?
Yeah, soon to come, with regard to biometrics, I mean, we have voice enabled capabilities. Nothing, to my knowledge, maybe something amazing is happening at R&D up in Santa Clara right now. But yeah, I think with regard to shoppable, we're on the path of allowing our TV owners to engage in ways using voice. The TV, LG TVs can be prompted by recognizing your voice. And then, I'd imagine down the road you would see, based on continued engagement, you're passed back either voluntarily or involuntarily relevant and contextual ads or offerings based on your inputs and your behaviors on the TV.
Right, and look, I think that we accept enough of that, but where it's done cleverly and not abused. So,
Yeah.
But I think that I want to go back to where we started with tentpole events and live, and really talk about what sorts of things we think, even in the next year, because I think we get a sense that we're reaching some sort of a tipping point here. Are there things that can be done that are sort of CTV only or some sort of engagement? I think that festivals or longer events or things that maybe partners and brands could sort of pay for would be interesting. And Karl, I mean, you're in a new role as the CRO of Fuse Media. Given all the things that you've seen over the last 10 years, I mean, where do you think some of these new modalities would go with, and particularly with building big brand events?
Good question. I mean, concerts, events, or Burning
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
suggesting.
That was kind of my first thought. If I had to answer the question,
Yeah, Burning
would
Man.
be music.
Music, I mean, live events, but yeah, music definitely. I mean, while at Samsung, I think we did a couple concerts, K-pop related. Chester can appreciate that, and with some success. I don't know that the scale and the audience was there per se, but no, I think music is probably another live event or an area to go explore in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, and Lexi, I know some colleagues who'd been doing stuff with Disney and Disney Radio, like Dean Barnes back in the day. That you had some events, but I mean, is that something that you're thinking about, looking at larger events that you can curate and build larger sort of brand activations?
Sure. I mean, we have college game day all, in itself, I feel like is a brand activation every Saturday as well. So
Enough said. Enough said. That really is. And by the way, when I was at the mothership, ESPN, there's a hallway. It's beautiful. It's all glass. It's sort of a connector bridge, and there are pedestals where you can play your alma mater's theme song. Now, I'm a Northwestern University Wildcat, and of course they had Go U Northwestern, so that was very impressive. But it was just, it really is. It's just so amazing when you think, yeah, I mean, there's so much more even on the college side in the United States. It's like this this alternate universe, which you have to sit down and say, my God, that alone is just massive for shopping. I mean, I have not bought any Northwestern gear through CTV, but I think I might just to prove that I can do that through ESPN and say that Lexi told me to go there.
We're just thinking about like user experience and customization, like the ESPN app. Like if you haven't, I'm sure there's such a level of customization you can do for yourself. And so I went to Wake Forest, go Deeks, but I'm like, my entire feed is the Knicks and Wake Forest, and I would love to know who else has like that matching, so you can really get
that is interesting. I haven't fully customized it. I mean, I customized the NBA app, but I think that what I've noticed is incredible redesign. I mean, one of the things that was always key, and I think this is very interesting for Disney, is that years ago, Manish Jha, when he was at NFL.com, he'd been at ESPN for years, and we had a French client who was working with him, and he said, what's really frustrating about being with the NFL? I said, what is it? It's like, it's our data, and ESPN gets the stuff out there before we do. It's just, they're just incredible. And I was like, yeah, kind of are. So I think that, one takeaway, there's several takeaways I have from this panel, is to look at ESPN in terms of where shoppability can go. And we are going to answer one question. There's one very, very dutiful person who asked a good question we'll get to in a second. But before we get to that, I want just, some other thoughts from you in terms of what the next year will bring really quickly. Joe, let's start with you.
Real quickly, we have real-time decisioning as we're talking about things. We've got real-time serving of different creative DCO, but what's coming around the corner is real-time creative creation that's being unlocked by AI. And if you're following that at all, that's going to be massive.
We're all over that with many of our clients. And I do want to also point out, we didn't talk as much about measurement. I think maybe we have to bring all of you back and do a separate kind of thing on measurement, because I think that shopping, interactive, and measurement are super, super, super important. Karl, real quick, what do you see in the next year? Shoppability.
I'm going to add to that. I think the fast spaces, which is where we live, we've got 8 channels and growing that we create and distribute. So where the fast space from an independent perspective lacks is the program level, day part level measurement, identifying audiences, and then of course the outcomes, again, for a smaller, say, publisher media play for us. So we're trying to bring that to the fold for our own channels, and then our collective, which is a Culture Collective. You can find channels from Lionsgate there, Trusted Media Brands, Tastemate, and the list goes on.
Amazing. So, I really want to see how you take fast and make it more shoppable. Quick question before we wrap from Lynn James: is Shoppable CTV replacing lower funnel digital or complementing it? Is Shoppable CTV replacing lower funnel digital, or is it complementing it? Real quick, start with you, Chester.
I would say it complements it. I mean, I mentioned earlier, we all know that the phone, the mobile device is near and dear. It's always there. But I would say that if I'm a consumer and I see, whether it's on social media or elsewhere, YouTube, et cetera, and I see a brand or a product or category I'm interested in, if I then turn on my television, I see that same brand or product or categories, I think that's a supplemental, it adds to it. And so I think over the next year, you'll see, I think on our side at LG, more proliferation of shopping opportunities and engaging moments.
Good answer. Lexi, what's your take on that?
I mean, Chester said it perfectly. I totally agree.
Awesome. Karl?
Yep. Additive, supplemental.
Cool.
Better together.
Joe?
Complementary.
Complementary. I'm going to say complementary. Thank you, Lynn James, for that. And we are at 5 o'clock on the East Coast, 2 o'clock on the Pacific Coast. And I want to thank Karl Meyer from Fuse Media. Please clap. Joe Hall from Spaceback by Rembrand. Chester Goodson, all the way from Palm Desert with LG Electronics. Last but not least, fellow New Yorker, East Coaster here, Lexi Swift, fantastic Lexi Swift, a new name and face. It was so good to have you. Disney Advertising is lucky to have you. I'm Chris Pfaff from Chris Pfaff Tech Media LLC, and it's back to you, Steve Nathans Kelly.
Yeah, thank you all. This has been fantastic. So it's just been a hoot for me just to listen to this. So thank you so much. And Chris will actually be back tomorrow to close the show. And we've actually got a full day of programming tomorrow. But before we get to that, I do want to recognize Jose Otoya, who was the first of many people to recognize Wade in the Water by the great Ramsey Lewis Trio.
I got that immediately, but you know, by the time I punched it to you, Jose had just stolen that. He's like Shazam, you know, way to go. Yeah.
Employees of streamingmedia.com and their families and relatives are not eligible to win.
Yeah, I know that. I know. I saw Ramsey Lewis years ago in Chicago. I love the man. Yeah, so great. So thank you to Steve. Thanks to Bill. Thanks to everybody. And I want to thank the people who are behind the scenes, like Kelly Liasaki from Disney and Tanya Campos with Fuse Media. And Emily Riley, she's with Spaceback by Rembrand. You know, we don't get these speakers just out of thin air, and they do an amazing job to help curate and shape and make the trains run on time, and we don't do it without them, and they deserve some applause too. Yeah. So thank you to them as always, and thank you to you.
Yeah,
you, the audience.
We'll hope to see you all tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific for those hardy souls that want to get up that early and join us for All About Context, leveraging AI for contextual CTV advertising.
Ooh, I'll be there.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.